everyone, welcome to Talking GPA. I'm your host Amy, and today it looks a little different if you're a video watcher. I'm in a hotel room, but mind your business, we're gonna continue on. So today's episode, we're gonna be talking about passion, okay? And passion can mean a lot of things, but for today's episode, we're gonna be talking about following your passion if you feel like you want to pursue your dream career and how passionate you actually are into doing that. So let's get into it. So in high school, as I've mentioned before, I've struggled a lot with trying to find like my ideal career path. So like I really wanted to be a vet when I was like really young, like I think like in elementary school, like what's your dream job? And I was like, oh, I want to be a vet. I want to be able to help animals and stuff. And then I kind of phased out of that and then went into more of like cooking and more of like bakery pastry items. And then I was like, well, I would love to be like a pastry chef. That would be really cool. So then I thought in middle school, like that's the thing that I want to pursue. And then my parents were like, no, like that's not something that you're going to want to do. And I agreed because I don't remember what they said, but I was like, okay, well, I can't do that. So now what? Now what do I do? And when I was in 5th grade, I was like in my first theatrical production ever. And I first off wanted to do my elementary school's Cinderella. And I auditioned for it and I did not get casted. And I was like, that's okay, like I'm fine or whatever, but I really wanted to be in it. And then I told my mom that I was like, hey, I really want to be able to do this. And she looked into it, and the city was actually doing like a youth theater production of Cinderella. Like there's 2 Cinderellas going on, which I don't think would happen now if like it's in the same city, that like 2 productions would be going on at the same time of the same thing in 2 different places. But that's what was going on back in the day. And they immediately signed me up. My mom drove me to my first class, and obviously like at the city it was like, if you pay for the class, you'll get a role. And so obviously I was like, well, you have to join now, I'm not gonna miss out on getting a role, because I definitely didn't get one when I was auditioning for my elementary school Cinderella. So let's do this. I auditioned, and then I got the role of town crier. I think town crier number 3. And I was so excited. I think also I got to pull the carriage, like Cinderella's carriage. And like I feel like my growth spurt happened in like high school, because in 5th grade I was very short. Like I was like a tiny little kid. And they're like, you're going to pick this wagon up with a person, 2 people on it, and you're going to drive it across the stage to the other side where the Cinderella is going to get dropped off or whatever. And I was like, I got this. And so I guess I carried it. I have little memory of it. And it was very interesting. I was like, wow, this is crazy. And that is when my passion for the theater kind of like arose. I liked theater, but I didn't know that it was something that like, I don't know, you could do. And like, it never clicked in my head because I was a dancer growing up. So I was more of the dancer side. And I definitely wasn't, like, I knew my talents, and I had none. And so I knew, like, there's no way I'm going to pursue this, like, professionally, like, I'm not going to be, like, the greatest dancer ever and be, like, a ballet company, because that was, like, my main focus. And so I was like, oh, now there's this new thing that's like musical theater. So it's singing, dancing, and acting. I love all of those things. So I was like, I love this. Like, I want to keep doing this. And that's exactly what I did. I kept on doing youth theater program, that exact youth theater program for up until before COVID. So 2019 was like my last theatrical performance because I was like not doing the kid performance because I was a little too old. And so I wouldn't, because usually like the kid theater show would be during school days, and in this specific like city thing, it would be like during the spring on Saturdays. And I'm like, I'm now like a teenager, like I'm not gonna do that. So I'll do it over the summer. And COVID happened, and they're like, actually, we're not doing this anymore. Go home. And so I was really sad. But that was like my first spark of passion where I knew that this is what I wanted to do and like get better at. And so this kind of phases into like what I feel as someone who isn't necessarily following their passion into a career or like a major, at a university. Like, I feel as though if you want to pursue your passion or your dream job, definitely do that. Like if you want to, commit, okay? And that goes into what do you think you have that will make you stand out with the thousands of other people that also want that same dream job? And this is where it's like, what are your, like, how are you capable of being in that role? And if I were to say, like, in high school, oh, I really want to be able to be in a musical theater program in college, definitely wasn't good at singing. I don't think I was good at acting. I never really got notes, and that was the most upsetting thing, but I definitely knew I could not sing. And then dancing, I was getting better at, but like compared to studio dancers that would like actually be in the studio for what seems to be 30 hours a week, and I was only in the studio for like 12, like I didn't have that like drive to put in that much effort and hours into dancing, and getting better at those skills to be able to stand out amongst the other people that really want the same career that I do. And so that I realized, like, that's the one thing that's going to set me back in I won't be able to stand out. There's nothing that I have that is going to be able to kind of bring out, like, I have a passion for it, but I know that there's always going to be someone better than me, and I'm just going to have to work harder. And it's the thing of like, how hard are you going to work at it, and how willing are you to work at it? And at the time, I was not very willing to work at being better at that. I was just kind of trying to get through high school and get graduated, because the moment COVID hit, I was going to be in my junior year, and then I had another year left. And so I'm just like, what's going on, guys? I just want to graduate, and now like I feel like I have to restart my whole personality. Like I don't know who I am anymore because I've been in my room for the past 6 months, So it was very difficult for me to kind of navigate what I wanted to major in. Besides like knowing how much effort you're willing to put into getting better and basically going all in, 100%, balls to the walls, get it, And having the motivation to continue to do the thing you're passionate about without losing that passion because you're putting so much effort into it. And those things like really are delicate, because if you put too much effort into wanting to get better and trying to be, let's say, like musical theater, like being the best musical theater person and wanting to be on Broadway, are you still going to have that passion to continue it? So besides trying to figure out how will you stand out in the field or passion that you're willing to go into, I feel like another thing is how you're going to get out there and how you're going to be able to be seen. Because I feel as though now that I learned in my 20 something years, it's only 20, in my 20 years of like life, I feel like I've learned that it is important to have contacts and people that you know. And it's important to get out there because that's how you're going to be able to progress. And it sucks to hear that because I would say like 2 years ago, I'm like, I can do this on my own. I can do this. I don't need to know anyone. And that's kind of like nepotism, but not really, because nepotism is like you're born into this family with money and or like fame or whatever, and you're given things based on the fact that you were born into it. And people are lucky enough to be able to be born into something that's something that they're compatible with, And then there's the us few where we basically have to start from scratch. And one of the things that is important is just get out there and talk to people. And that's scary. Coming from someone who had social anxiety and still has some, but fights like inner demons, like winding up, it is so frustrating and upsetting to have small talk, to try to basically get out there and tell people about yourself so that they remember you. And it feels so weird because it's like, your walking resume being like, oh yeah, like, hey, how are you doing? Oh my God, that's great. Oh, did you like this thing? Oh yeah? Oh my God, so did I. I actually know this person that does that. Yeah, look, my job is so-and-so, and this is what I actually do, and it's pretty cool, blah, blah, blah. They say what they do, blah, 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 find a connection, bam, you now know this person. It is crazy that that's how that works. And I feel like a lot of you are going to be like, yeah, I knew that. You're not saying anything new. I didn't know this, okay, guys? I didn't know this 2 years ago, and I feel as though there might be someone who also doesn't know this. And you know what? I feel you, and I hear you, and I see you, because sometimes people don't really tell you how to be an adult or get a job. People don't tell you how to do that. From my point of view, again, this is all me, like from what I see, but I don't feel like anyone told me like, hey, this is how you apply for a job. I only saw it in movies, and it was very much like, oh, do you just walk in and you're like, here's my resume, and then the cashier takes it to the back, and then like gives it to the manager that day and like sees it. But then now, since we have technology, basically do it online, which is great. Now I know. But in the end, connections are important to be able to get further into what you want to do. And even if you feel like it's meaningless, just do a connection. Just small talk. I'm sorry. It's going to be small talk. I will advocate for small talk. Unfortunately, I don't know how to do it well. I don't think I do it at all. I really just tried to like pick out something from their personality that they gave me and then roll with it, But unfortunately, I do hit the line where it's like, it's so hot outside, right? Like, it's so hot outside. Like, why is it so hot, I do hit those lines. I'm sorry, But I feel like in my part of being able to be where I'm at now, where I'm still passionate for theater and musical theater. And luckily enough, I am kind of in a role where I'm able to do that, but not at where I want to be and where my actual dream job is, but I'm working towards that. And the way I did that is by forming a connection and talking to someone, and they told me, hey, when you turn 18, apply for this job so that you can start working with us for youth theaters, And I'm like, great, because I formed a connection, guys. We were connecting, okay? So I promise that small talk that's like 2 minutes long, make it the best 2 minutes that you could do. And that's what she said. So, as someone who didn't major in their passion or like dream job, I do see myself most of the time just having that day where it's just like, am I doing the right thing? Am I in the right major? But I'm so much better at this other thing. What if I just switched my major and I did this other thing? And I just switch it because I like doing the other thing. And this thing that I'm doing now, I don't really like, but it's all right, I guess, because it's fun to learn about new things that I don't know. But I do like this other thing more. And basically, it's just a bunch of circling that over and over again. And it's hard, especially being in my third year and graduating next year, where I'm at the point where I can't really just give up, you know? I can't really just throw everything away and start over. And I mean, I can, but I won't let myself do that because I do see the potential of what I could do in the major that I'm at. And so, if you're also not sure about majoring in your passion, something that I think that I'm still not sure about whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. So we'll find out in maybe like 3 or 4 years once I'm graduated to see what actually happens. But I feel like in my experience, I chose to not major in my passion because I know that it's very much a freelance job. It's not very consistent. It's also kind of rare. And my dream job is obviously to choreograph for like musical theater or be part of like any musical theater, acting, singing, dancing type of beat, you know? But it's very hard to get consistent jobs at because it's an audition process. It's a elimination process. You have to move. You have to find a new place. You have to consistently have, in my mind, a very stable way of living because you will have to find jobs different places. You might not have a job. You might only have a job for 3 months, and therefore afterwards you're going to have to find another job to be able to continue to pay rent or to live wherever you're at. So these things are very important to take into consideration in what you want to pursue because it is hard to be able to continue. And so in my mind, I'm like, obviously psychology is very difficult. To be able to have an actual job, a traditional job, as a psychologist or a counselor or a therapist, you know, you need a master's, obviously. And so, but there's a lot of like part-time experience-based jobs that require a bachelor's, you know, and that's something that like I know I can do, you know. It's pretty easy. I don't need to get my master's now because that's not something that I know exactly what I'm gonna do, and therefore I don't want to waste my money in doing something that I'm not 100% sure I want to continue into the future. But I know that I can still help in some sort of way by doing my bachelor's. And so if I were to continue choreography or musical theater, I can still do that on the side because of its inconsistency and freelance aspect, where I can continue to look basically anywhere for youth theater camps to be able to be an instructor at, or be at a regular musical theater shows and try to volunteer at, or have a part-time job at and be involved in, and then work my way up in there, you know? Even though I'm not following my passion, my career is set for one thing that could be certain rather than my passion where I know it is definitely not certain. So think about that. the certainty of it, which goes into AI and robots, okay? I would say this is a pretty basic one. I feel like AI, ChatGPT, basically anything artificial intelligence wise, they're very much taking over, okay, guys? And there's nothing that we can do to stop it, and that's okay. We have to learn how to work with it and then move on. And so when you think about a passion or a career aspect that you want to follow in, keep in mind, if you want to go into a field that probably can't be taken over by AI, because therefore it guarantees you a job. I think that's what also one of the aspects as to why I chose psychology specifically to major in, is because it's very much going into the human mind, and artificial intelligence is that. It's artificial intelligence taken information from a whole bunch of different databases to be able to give you a very basic answer. I feel like right now it is impossible currently, again, that AI can understand and empathize with a human being and their emotions, because it is a very difficult and complex thing to understand and to be able to feel. Because a lot of psychology, it's very much like you understand what is going on. You're knowledgeable in how a person is feeling because you take in that information. You can physically see how a person is. You can see their actions. You can see what they're thinking, how they interact with other people. And all of these little things you take into consideration to form your analysis if you're like a psychologist or a therapist, you know? So going back to basically being in high school and having a passion for dance and theater, my parents told me the fact that if you really like to do theater, do it as a passion, do it as a side project, work on something that will be your main source of income. And so I found that important because for me, financial responsibility is very much an important factor in how I want to live my life. I want to be able to live comfortably, and it's right now, it is impossible to live comfortably. And so I had to think, like, what is something that will actually maybe stay consistent over time and to help me have that being financially comfortable. And financially comfortable means a lot of things for different people. And I just want to be able to live. That's basically all I want to do. I want to have a home, maybe. But these things are very much a maybe, because from the way we're looking at things, it's very hard to do that. So I took that into consideration. Now, if we look at theater and dance, definitely not a thing that, like we said, it was inconsistent. It's an inconsistent rate in which you will be able to have a source of income, because you will be booked for X amount of shows, and then you're gonna have to audition for another show and hope you get it. And if you don't, then you have to find a job to be able to pay for your housing and your food, because now you didn't book the audition, so now you have to be able to pay for your housing and your living, and then continue to try to audition to other places. And it's very much like you're not always going to be booked all the time. There's going to be times where you're not going to be in any musicals and you're just going to have to be a normal person until you book another thing, maybe a year from now, maybe 2 years from now, and on and so forth. So while that's inconsistent, I feel as though psychology is very much a little more consistent. And you might think I'm wrong, but this was me in high school feeling like, hey, I had to see a therapist for like a couple years, and seeing them be a therapist, I felt as though like it's important for people to be able to have someone to talk to, and especially express their feelings so that they can also have validation and a little understanding in why they feel that way. And as we can see, like, we all need help in some sort of way. And mentally, we all have different struggles and challenges and histories and family issues. You know, we all have these problems that we would just like to have someone that we don't have any emotional connection to just kind of talk it out and then understand why we feel this way. And I feel like in a couple of years from now, we're still gonna need that. And I was like, that's perfect. Psychology sounds like a good idea. And also with Criminal Minds, as I said before too, I saw Criminal Minds one day and I was like, hey, I really like what they're doing right there. Let me look it up. And it's like forensic something. And I was like, that's cool. I think it's like forensic science or something. Still don't know. Didn't really do much research. I think I looked it up once and then I just saw the first answer that popped up on Google. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. So there's the heartfelt answer, and then there's I just looked it up and then picked one answer, which can mesh together. I just don't know how, but they might coincide somehow. Basically, my rant is, I believe it's important for you to take into consideration how plausible it is for you to be able to continue to have this job consistently. And if you're like, I don't really care, I want to put all my marbles, I don't know, what is it? I want to put all my things in one basket. Eggs. I want to put my eggs in one basket. You know, if you want to do that, go ahead, you know, but make sure you commit, okay? You commit, you have a plan, you know exactly what you're going to do if it goes wrong, if it goes right, if it goes left, if it goes right, okay? I said right twice, which means it could go good for you. But that's the important thing, that you have kind of a good idea of how you're gonna get there. Because I feel like you have to be prepared, mentally prepared, on exactly what you want to do. My last topic of today's episode, again, it's really short, is traditional jobs versus modern jobs. And this is where it is so interesting how a couple years can really make a difference in how society views a modern job. And so, if you just want a quick rundown, I feel these are my understandings of what these are. Again, you might have a different one, that's okay. Write in the comments and I'll be like, wow. Okay? I feel like a traditional job is very much 9 to 5, a office job, or like a job that is very basic quote unquote, where it's something that if you were a kid in like the early 2000s and you were told, what do you want to be when you're older? That's the answer you would get, you know, like maybe a nurse or a doctor, a firefighter, a policeman, teacher, like an accountant with money, a judge, an attorney. These very much like traditional jobs, you know? And then now you have these modern jobs, which are non-traditional jobs. Your content creation people, sports people who are athletes. I don't know. This is how much knowledge I have in sports. I don't really know. Okay, guys? So, basketball players, baseball players, football players. So, this is really weird because now there's this new generation of people who are seeing these people that are content creators and athletes and want to strive to be able to get to that fame and get to that influencing part of being able to have a job from doing the modern job. And it's so weird because there's no degree in being a modern worker, you know, being a content creator. There's no like hey, here's your degree, here are your class, or like, here are your classes, this is what you're gonna do for content creation 101. There's no classes in that. You really just have to be able to have a passion for it and to be able to have the drive to be able to continue and make it somehow. And it is like a 0.01% that you will be able to achieve like a trending, like be a trending or popular person on the internet. It is not very likely, and it is a hard thing to be able to do. And that includes being able to be a content creator and upload something on TikTok or Instagram or YouTube. These things are hard because people are always uploading on YouTube. There is always like at least 1,000 videos being uploaded a day, maybe like every 5 hours, because of how big the platform is, that there's so much content and you're only seeing a little sliver of it because everything is catered to what you like. So you don't know the opposite side of YouTube where it's other things. So if you like beauty and vlogging, they're gonna get you this little snippet of people. But if you like gaming and more, I don't know, outdoorsy things, you have this little snippet of people who are doing this. And most of the time, these people are popular people already. You're not seeing up and coming YouTubers. You're probably seeing people that already have a little bit of influence, already have been a content creator for years, and they're just doing their thing. So you're not even getting the newer people to be able to get used to new people and being like, oh, actually, I saw this new YouTube video from this new content creator that's new, and let's watch it. Kind of like me, guys. I'm new, okay? I wish there was so many people that were watching this video right now. So, because this is crazy. That would be crazy if I'm talking about people that don't see a lot of new YouTubers slash here podcasters, and suddenly now there is. That would be crazy if that happened. But I don't know. I don't make the rules because it's all about the algorithm. And then if you go to TikTok, there's even more because it's short form videos that are like 15 seconds because our attention span is only 5, and you're basically getting fed content after video after video, and you're just scrolling. You're scrolling, okay? It is actually insane. And again, even with that, the amount of times you probably get a video that is brand new and has a little bit of likes is very small. It's very small, very rare, and when you do, and it's enjoyable, that's surprising. Because that just means it's not from a YouTuber or a TikToker that are used to this and are new, like they have a consistent following and like or whatever. This is just a new person that is funny and has good content, and that's very rare to see nowadays because again, on TikTok, there is very much an algorithm. You consistently watch videos, you have how long you watch each video for and what you like literally. And so once you start liking a whole bunch of videos, TikTok starts catering to that and is like, hey, you really like these types of videos, so we're going to keep on giving you these. And most of the time, they're already popular videos. So you don't have to worry about having a bad video that you don't like because it's always going to be something that you want to watch. And then you go on to the Instagram where it's just completely weird. We don't know what's going on. I feel like it's the Wild West over there. You upload something, you might get a hit, you might not. It has to do with the hashtags or the music. I don't know. But I feel like it's a little worse. Like it's not as clean as TikTok is. But you still have a little bit of an algorithm that is things that you like or whatever. I feel like TikTok is a very much like TikTok, YouTube, and then Instagram, because I feel like YouTube's getting there with understanding the algorithm and what people actually want to watch. Instagram's not there yet, and who can blame them, But things like that with content creation are very on and off. And that's now a career, basically, because there's so many people that are getting brand deals from different sponsors because they're like, well, content creators have a following, and those followers are more likely to be influenced by the content creator if the content creator starts mentioning anything that they use. And so if I was a brand, I would be like, hey, content creator, here's my beauty makeup thing. Can you say that you like this, or can you just, here you go, free stuff, look at it, and then talk about it in your video. And with that, they basically influence you, and that's where the term originated, or it was first influencer, and now it's just content creator. But influencer in the sense of, hey, I have this brand, I have these products that I really enjoy. If you guys want to buy them, or if you guys like them too, you should buy them, you know? And then viewers are like, wow, this content creator really likes this, I'm gonna buy it. Or it's very much an ethos, pathos, logos type of thing, which you probably learned in English. And so it really tells you like, hey, a celebrity's endorsing this, so that means it has to be good. Or like, because of how many people are actually supporting this one brand, you're like, oh, that's consistency. That means that many people actually like it. No, that's not what that means. That just means that many people actually were asked, hey, can you show this thing off and say how good it is, and we might give you money. I don't know how it works. I've never gotten one of those, but that's how I think it goes, you know? There's just this person in a trench coat wearing like a fedora and sunglasses, and they're like, here's your package, you know? And then they get the package, and then they're like, okay, guys, so here you go. Open it, take out the stuff, show the stuff, tell people to buy the stuff, put it back in the box, close the box, and then they give it back to the fedora person. That's from what my understanding is. That's definitely not what's going on, but that's what I think it is. But a content creator or a modern job, those are things that are very new and are very popular nowadays, because I see a lot of kids wanting to be content creators because they see how much influence they have, and they see how much fun it is to actually have that. And the moment you see a content creator and you're like, wow, I love that they're having so much fun doing this, I would love to do this. And then you see an accountant, you know, I am so interested to see like what happens with them when they're adults and they have to get jobs and like be a human in the world, because I feel like we're slowly losing these traditional jobs and these jobs that kind of make our economy work. And we're starting to get a little more of a content creator jobs where they're basically just influencing people and just doing their life and getting money for it. So these things are very different, and I don't feel like there's gonna be that much crossover between the two because it's boring. And I'm saying traditional jobs are boring, quote unquote, you know? And I feel like even though they're boring, they're important. And so I feel like we're slowly losing these important jobs where they make our economy actually spin. I'm basically really interested to see what goes on with these kids in this era, because I genuinely think that they might be screwed. I'm just saying, maybe, just a little bit, okay? Just because there are so many content creators and so much content that you can ingest in 1 hour. And because there's so much content, these kids have this idea that that's a living. You can make a living off of this. You can make a living off of being a Twitch streamer. You can make a living off being a YouTuber. You can make a living off being a TikToker or a Instagrammer. You know, these things. These kids are looking at this and being like, wow, I can do this. Why would I want a boring 9-to-5 office job when I could be out in the world having fun spending money? And now who's going to take over the office job 9-to-5? You know, no one's going to be there. And so I'm just really interested in seeing how that might work out, because I have a feeling it might not work out. And then we'll see. We'll see what happens. Because I feel like my generation was very much the turnover of getting a little popularity in content creators, but it wasn't to the extent of being taken seriously. It was very much like, oh, content creator, so what's your actual job, what do you actually do, because it wouldn't be an actual job until now you would say, hey, I'm a content creator, and they'd be like, wow, that's so crazy. So like, what do you do? What do you want? Like, where do you go? What do you do? These things. Where in my generation growing up, there weren't a lot of YouTubers. TikTok wasn't a thing. It was Musical.ly, and so it was just people lip singing to songs and having a little movement to it and putting a black and white filter if it was sad, and then suddenly it would get views, and that was pretty much it. So this era of technology and people and basically having getting a passion from doing content creation is crazy, and I'm very interested to see where this might end up. And so that's kind of the thing where Marlene was mentioning. Having a passion is very important to be able to be motivated to do anything. Because the moment you have a passion, it makes you strive for the future. And it makes you actually plan out, hey, I really want to commit to this. I want to get better in my passion. Because right now I'm at A and I want to be at D by the time I finish this process, so I can be really good at my passion. And so how are you going to get from A to D? And what happens if there's, I don't know, an issue down the road? What if you can't do that anymore? What is your backup plan? And how stable is your passion for you to be able to continue it for as long as you want and as long as you need, That's it for today's episode. I hope you just had fun. I feel like I was rambling a lot. There's not very much like a passionate, speech where I'm giving really great advice. I feel like I was just rambling about AI taking over. And because I saw a gorilla doing skincare, and that threw me in for a loop, because I'm like, is the gorilla getting paid for this? Is the skincare product, is this a real skincare product? Is this in the wild? Is this, where is this? Who is this person? Who's getting money? Basically, all of that. But I really just hope that if you're in a place where you don't know if you want to commit to your passion or just go the basic route, kind of like what I did, where you just get a major or a degree in something that is more traditional, either way is perfectly okay. And if you want to just have a traditional job and just want to go into your college or university and get a basic degree in a job that you are interested in, you're like, okay, this isn't my passion, but I'm interested in this. At least you have a solid foundation for a traditional job and a backup plan if you are able to. So just in case your passion doesn't work out. And that is the end of my rambling session. I hope you guys like this video and audio. If you did, please follow or put a comment, be like, okay, this was good. Or like this video or audio that you're listening to. I don't know how Spotify works. I don't know if you like it, if you put like, or save it. I don't know how this works. But hope you guys liked it overall, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.